You're listening to Hooked on Creek, a podcast celebrating the music, history, and fans of the legendary jam band Max Creek. I am your host, Korre Johnson, and you are listening to episode 20.
Pushing me up, pushing me past the 49 jams a little better. I don't need this to be disappointment. Put on a face that you like next time. Don't mess around with a bad example. Put in stones where it stands back. The bucket to see my head is turned.
Thanks for joining me once again on Hooked on Creek. It's great to be here with you talking about my favorite band, Max Creek. But what makes something your favorite? I mean, how can you choose one thing to be your favorite? And do your favorites change over time? Do they depend on your mood on any given day? Are they influenced by your past experiences or maybe even what others think? Well, I can't answer all those questions, but I am going to explore this idea a bit more in this episode, which is focused on favorite Max Creek songs. Over the past few weeks, I asked fans of Max Creek to submit audio clips to me indicating their favorite Max Creek songs, which I included in this episode. But since this is such a big topic to cover, I knew right away that I could not do it myself. That's why I called on Dave Burland to come back on the podcast to help me walk through this topic and discuss all the great Max Creek songs called out by fans just like you. Now, if you are a longtime listener to Hooked on Creek, you know Dave Burland from episodes 5 and 13 of the podcast. So I encourage you to check out those episodes if you want to learn more about Dave. We had a lot of fun putting this episode together, and I think you are really going to enjoy listening to what fans picked as their favorite Max Creek songs. Of course, there are so many Max Creek songs we did not even discuss. And well, I think that means we will probably do another episode like this again, because I love hearing from you and making you part of this podcast. So don't be shy. You can reach out to me on the Hooked on Creek website at hookedoncreek.com, or you can send me an email at hookedoncreek@gmail.com. I would love to hear your suggestions on topics to cover, shows to review, or guests to interview on this podcast. All right, now let's get started. Joining me remotely from the Finger Lakes region of Western New York is Dave Burland. Thanks for coming back on the podcast, Dave.
Korre, it's so great to be here. It's so great to speak with you again.
Dave, as you know, I asked Max Creek fans to tell me their favorite Max Creek song from what is probably arguably their favorite band, which is Max Creek. And I guess the question is that really even a fair question to ask? How can a Max Creek fan pick one favorite song, right?
How can you pick a favorite song? It's so tough. And then even if you pick a favorite song, you have to pick a version of it, or you have to pick a year, and that's tough too.
I know settling on one favorite Max Creek song is probably an impossible task, and that's precisely why I like the question, because I think your favorite song tells something about you, right? I mean, your favorite song probably reflects an emotion or a feeling that you have. Maybe your favorite song serves as a time machine, taking you back in time to something in your youth, your childhood, maybe a memorable time or event in your life. Or your favorite song could just be your favorite because of the meaning you interpret from the lyrics, or maybe it's just the overall composition of the song that you enjoy. There's just so many variables. And yes, my favorite song changes all the time based on what's going on around me and inside my head. Dave, how do you approach this question of a favorite song? We'll get to your favorite songs a little bit later, but even the concept of a favorite song, how do you approach something like that?
So one of the things I noticed, and I don't see a lot of live concerts, but I definitely connect with songs that I've seen live. And, just because I can remember the day. And, I know we've talked about this before and we'll talk about it later, I'm sure, but the Lincoln Hill Farm Show from last year when I saw Max Creek, I definitely connect with songs in that set list a little bit more than others because I saw them. I remember that. And so that's how I connect with, and I think you'll probably have some fans too, some jam band fans or some fans of Max Creek that would say the same thing. They relate that specific version that they saw live to the memory of that show, getting to the show, things like that. And ever since I've seen live music too with other bands, that's the way I've connected things. But I totally agree with you, though. I think a lot of it for me is lyrics. I also connect with, as we get in with favorites, to talk about the favorites here, I seem to connect a little bit more with the music lately than I would necessarily with lyrics. But that's just me personally right now. Sometimes, I'll go through phases where I'll connect more with the lyrics than, with the music. But
Well, despite how hard and inexact the effort might be, I still thought it would be fun to hear directly from fans of Max Creek to gain a sense of what their favorite songs are. So, in this episode, Dave and I are going to play some audio clips submitted to the podcast over the past couple weeks from fans just like you, answering the question, what is your favorite Max Creek song? All right, Dave, let's kick it off by listening to this audio clip submitted by Ryan.
So one of my favorite songs that I love to hear, and there's a reason behind it, is called "You Write the Book" by Scott Morawski. Just think it's a very beautiful song. It's a great opener to a show. It can really extend to long distances and jams and whatnot, or it can be short and sweet, and they can just delve from there. But one of my favorite shows was at the Wormtown Festival. It was at Russell, Massachusetts, at Whipperong Country Club. It was like this random one time they played at the Wormtown was at this venue. And they, there was Northern Lights literally in the sky above the stage when Max Creek came up. And Scott pointed it out to everybody in the crowd. He's like, have you seen this amazing Northern Lights going on in the sky? And it was just beautiful. And then that's what they went into. So that would be probably my favorite moment and most likely my favorite song because I have that like connection to it.
Well, thank you, Ryan Yurden, for participating in our discussion. Listeners to this podcast might know Ryan from his Today in Max Creek history posts on the Max Creek Recordings Facebook group. So thanks again, Ryan. So the song You Write the Book, that originally appeared on the band's 1986 album, and the show that Ryan is referring to, I looked it up, it was the September 7th, 2002 Wormtown Music Festival. And You Write the Book, that's kind of got the complete package, right? It's got everything in it, I think, right?
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely love this song. So I've sent you some of my favorites, and you know that I love this song. And there's a certain version from Gathering of the Vibes from 2013, which is up on YouTube. And I can say honestly, I've seen that version maybe 50 times. I just about put it on every weekend. I love the song for many different reasons, and I'll tell you the reason I like that version. But this is one where I really do love the lyrics, right? Because it's so empowering to say you have the power to move forward in any way you feel is appropriate. And I just love that. I love that aspect of it. But just musically, it's great. The version has, I'm not sure the name of the guest guitarist, but the one from Gathering of the Vibes, which I think is in Bridgeport, Connecticut, or it's in a town in Connecticut. Just some great interplay between the guest guitarists that they have. And that is up on YouTube. So if you have any listeners that would go to that version, but I love this song. I think that's a great choice.
It's got great lyrics, great composition, and it tends to be a vehicle for a big jam sometimes too. So it really, really is an incredible song. So thank you, Ryan, for submitting that one to us. And now let's hear this audio clip submitted by Matt.
Hi, this is Matt from Connecticut. My favorite Max Creek tune is If You Ask Me. I like it because it is funky.
All right. Thank you, Matt, for calling the Hooked on Creek hotline and leaving this voicemail for me. I really appreciate it. And Matt, I think you nailed it. If You Ask Me is a funky, funky song. Every time I hear it, I want to get up and dance. But Dave, I think I remember from our earlier conversations, you're not much of a dancer. Will this one get you off your butt?
I think any Max Creek song would get me dancing for a long time. But If You Ask Me, yeah, I totally agree. A lot of funk and a lot of disco, I felt like. I listened to a version just today. There's a nice version that's posted. I think it's on Archive from 8/21/2013 or no, this may be on YouTube, is where Peaceful Warrior goes into If You Ask Me. And, it's great. There's a lot of jam possibilities with this one as well. I wouldn't say it's on the top of my list, but it's a great song. I mean, it's really hard with these songs, too, to say one is your favorite or one is not. I think it's the same as with a Grateful Dead tune, where you have your favorites at certain times, and then you start to like, some other songs. So, but it's a great song for sure.
It's like we talked about earlier, your favorite song sometimes represents what you are feeling or want to feel. And as you go through life, you may be traveling different parts of the spectrum, and something like this song might be exactly what you need at any given time. And so this song, for those interested, this is an original song that appeared on the band's 1986 album Windows, but I think the band had started playing this song a couple years earlier in 1984. So thank you so much, Matt, for participating in this and sending us your favorite song. I really appreciate it.
I was just going to add too that I think part of it is the time in your life too, because I tend to like different songs depending on, as the years go by, I might be ready for a certain song, right? It's kind of how I feel about films as well. I might not be ready for a certain song or film at a certain time, and then all of a sudden it makes sense to me, which I think would be true with this song too.
Yes. Okay, next up, we're going to hear from Stacey and find out what her favorite Max Creek song is.
So I've been thinking about this question about favorite Creek song for a number of weeks. And I've gone back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. So I think in order to be locked into a committed song that I could stick to and not vacillate from, I would go with The Seven. I like rider tunes, really because they give Scott so much freedom to explore when he goes off as he does. And The Seven, I don't know, just has, I like numbers, and that one resonates with me. So there you have it. For now, anyway, that's my favorite Creek song.
Well, thank you so much, Stacey, for participating in this and sending me an audio clip of your favorite song. It really is great to hear from you. So The Seven is a song that appeared on the band's self-titled debut album back in 1977, which is about the same time they started playing that song live, at least from what I can tell, on archive.org. And I think Stacey's right. This is one of my favorites. I'm not going to say it's my top favorite song, but for me, there's something just beautiful about this song. It's like almost has this like reflective quality of music from the 1970s. I don't know. I get a hint of like a prog rock in there, or this aesthetic that just feels like sort of like the big rock band tunes, the big songs from the 1970s. It's in there. It's more, I think, of a composed piece. You're not going to see the band, jam out for 15 minutes in the middle of the song. But I just love the way the song is composed, and I love John Ryder's voice in this. I just love the song.
I was listening to a version of The Seven today from 9/1/2019, and I was noticing the similarity that it has with the other one. It happened to follow the other one, that Grateful Dead tune, the other one. And I would agree with you. It's got kind of a prog rock type of a feel to it. Great song, and I thought it was interesting what she said too about the John Ryder songs. Again, I think John's got some great songs, but I was interested in her perspective in that it gives Scott some freedom to jam, which I had never really thought of before. So I think that's a great perspective. That was very interesting.
Stacey, thank you so much for participating in this and sending us your audio clip. And now let's hear an audio clip submitted by Tim.
It's been pretty challenging for me to pick a favorite Max Creek song. There's so many that I look forward to in a set list when I go see them live. Emerald Eyes always comes to mind. I think it's one of the most beautiful songs, one of the best in the repertoire, and I always look forward to seeing it in the middle of a set two or something. Just a really cool guitar work in that song. Interesting lyrics. I like the storytelling, and it's just really, really pretty. I like hearing it all the time. But some other ones that I really, really enjoy are If You Ask Me and See Things My Way. Two really danceable, fun songs that Max Creek likes to play pretty often. I always like seeing those. And I'd be lying if I said I wouldn't be hoping for a Shaky Ground encore almost every show that I go to.
Big thanks to Tim Pritchard for contributing to our discussion. I originally connected with Tim on Instagram, and I encourage you to check out his Instagram page, Raise the Bass, to hear some of his music. I think you're really going to enjoy that too. Tim mentioned a lot of songs here in his audio clip. Emerald Eyes, that's an original song by the band. It was included on their live album, 45 and Live, released last year in 2019, but it was not ever released on a studio album, but they've been playing that song actually since 1982. So that's been out there for a long time. I'm glad they got that onto a live album for sure. Then he included If You Ask Me, which of course has already been mentioned as a fan favorite. And then See It My Way. That's a cover of a song written by Toots Hibbard. He's a Jamaican singer-songwriter best known as the leader of the reggae and ska band Toots and the Maytals. His song See It My Way was released on his 1988 album Toots in Memphis. And I think I'm saying that right. It's Toots, not Toots. I'm not 100%
I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure. I thought it was Toots in the Mail, but I could be wrong on that too.
And I started watching a documentary on him, and they referred to him as Toots, or at least that's what I remembered.
Okay,
So
all right, okay, yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know.
If there are any fans of the podcast out there who would like to correct me, you can send me an email at hookedoncreek@gmail.com. And then he also mentioned Shaky Ground, which is, of course, a cover of the 1975 R&B single by The Temptations. So there's a lot to chew on there, Dave. What resonates with you?
So the first thing I thought of is Emerald Eyes. I love Emerald Eyes, and I just noticed that it was in set 2 of the show that I saw last year. The one thing I'll say about the version I saw of Emerald Eyes is Scott, for quite a few minutes, was playing the beginning progression for Emerald Eyes, which made it really beautiful. And he spoke with the crowd. And he was asking about, this happens to be close to the Rochester area, and he was talking with the crowd quite a bit, asking all the venues. He actually listed out all the venues that he had been to near the Rochester area. But it was really beautiful how he did that. I think I mentioned in the one of the episodes we did before that it was raining. And so he was kind of talking with the crowd because we were all standing in the rain. Okay. So that's a cool one. I really love that song. And then I had made some notes too about See Things My Way, or is it See Things My Way or See It My Way? Because the See It My Way, I think they listed a couple different ways on archive.org or on some of these other sites.
Yeah, I think the original release of the song is See It My Way.
See It My Way.
Yeah.
But so I was listening to a version today, actually a great version from December 23rd, 1995. It's an 18-minute version of the song. I love the song. It's a great cover song. I will say too that I don't know if you've talked about this too much on the podcast, but I tend to listen to things on YouTube as well as re-listen. I don't know if you've talked about re-listen at all, but there's an iPad app and a phone app for re-listen, and that's where I listen to this version of it. That's a great song.
Yeah, the re-listen app to me has been a game changer, just because as I understand it anyway, re-listen scrapes or somehow pulls the music off of archive.org and conveniently puts all that music into your phone in a simple app. And it's been a game changer for me as far as being able to consume music. Maybe it's way too much music, right?
It's great. And then what was the other one that he mentioned too? Because
Shaky Ground.
Oh, Shaky Ground, yeah. Mm-hmm. And Shaky Ground was an encore at the show that I saw too. And what a great song that is. Yeah. Wow, just to see that live, it's just amazing.
Yeah, I mean, when I look at these songs, I think Emerald Eyes certainly stands out. That is a big song. I think that is a favorite by a lot of Max Creek fans. And the lyrics in that song are just amazing. And Dave, you weren't expecting this, but I did print off the lyrics in front of me. And I would just like to read, the opening lines of this song because it's so amazing. So be prepared for this dramatic partial reading of Emerald Eyes. Okay, so I know that you're waiting patiently. Yes, it seems like a waste of time, but still you wait for me. You understand that I can hold your hand and still be free. I held you once some time ago. Yes, it seems like it was your eyes I pulled through fired snow, through the rain, through the pain, that we still might go. I didn't know it before, no, the power that you wield, but now I know that you're the girl who's turning in the field. I mean,
what a beautiful song.
Yeah, right. You can interpret so much from those lyrics. I just love it. Such a beautiful
song. I totally agree with you. I think out of the three that he mentioned, that one really sticks out as being so beautiful and just an amazing song.
Mm-hmm. All right, Tim, thanks again for submitting your audio clip. I really appreciate your participation in the podcast. It means a lot to me. So, okay, next up, let's hear John's favorite Max Creek song.
Hello, this is John from Connecticut, and one of my favorite songs cover was always Lawyers, Guns, and Money by Warren Zevon, but they always did a wonderful job, and I'm glad you're still around, still playing. Thanks for doing your podcast. Bye.
Well, thank you, John, for reaching out to me and sending in this clip reflecting your favorite Max Creek song. I really appreciate it. And Lawyers, Guns, and Money, of course, that is a cover of a Warren Zevon song released back on his 1978 album, Excitable Boy. And the band has been playing this song since about 1989. And I'll admit, I was not too familiar with Warren Zevon's music until I started listening, frankly, to Max Creek. And then, of course, I knew Werewolves of London from, the radio. But a couple months ago, I bought that album, Excitable Boy, because I was kind of curious to hear more of his music. And of course, the song is, I think, the last track on that album. I think it's an amazing song. I think the album that it came from is really good. When I look at this song, it seems to be some sort of a reflection of America's foreign policy, perhaps, but it also could be interpreted as a sort of sarcastic and grim commentary on America to the extent that power is held through access to things like lawyers, guns, and money. So I think it's really cool that Max Creek covers it.
Yeah, I'm a huge Warren Zevon fan. I really love Warren Zevon. All of his appearances on David Letterman when he was on the air. There's a great album also called Learning to Flinch, which is it's Warren Zevon playing acoustic for the most part, just piano and guitar. Beautiful album that has a lot of his songs on it. It's nice to see bands playing his music, continuing to play his music. He also has another great song that actually I've been playing. I'm a guitar player, and I play a song called Splendid Isolation, which is really good for this time in history. And actually the lyrics, match pretty well what we're going through. So, I just think it's great when bands pay tribute to these great musicians. Warren Zevon, was gone way too soon, I believe. And so it's great to see they add it to the repertoire.
Thank you, John, for reaching out to the podcast and giving us this recommendation. I'm excited to dig more into Warren Zevon's music. And now our last audio clip came in from Josh. So let's hear from Josh.
Hi, I'm Josh Cormier, and I'd like to share a few of my favorite Max Creek songs and one specific show where I thought they were just ripping. So Waiting for You is probably my favorite song, in general, mainly because of the jam at the end. It's almost like a lullaby. It's really sweet and melodic, and so yeah, that's my favorite. And then Willow Tree, obviously, but mainly for the chorus. I really like the chorus of that song. Heartbeat, which is just an all-around just a good song, great melody. And then I really, really like when Creek covers Beatles songs. So one of my favorites that I actually just jotted down is, if you ask me, for 1919, Bicycle Day last year, that performance specifically, Mark was he had some really weird effects going on with his keyboard, and Scott was playing a funkier licks than typically, and then if you ask me. So in that same show, for 1919, Peaceful Warrior and Pain in the Band are also stellar fucking versions. I don't know if you've listened to that show, but that is wild.
Thank you, Josh, for participating in the podcast and joining the conversation. So there is a lot there in Josh's audio clip. He brings up Waiting for You. That's an original Max Creek song that was never released on a Max Creek album, but I think the band has been playing that song since around 1987. He brought up Willow Tree, another original song that was included on the band's live album, 45 and Live, that came out last year in 2019, but not on a studio album. He brought up Heartbeat. That's an original song that appeared on two Max Creek albums. It was on their 1980 album, Rainbow, and also on their 1990 release, MCMXC. And then, If You Ask Me, well, this one has come up now a number of times in this episode, Dave. So apparently a lot of people like If You Ask Me.
So that should be my new favorite song? Is that what you're saying? That should be my new favorite, right?
I think you're supposed to be influenced by this, yes.
Yeah, that's right, exactly.
So there was a lot there, Dave. When you listen to the songs he mentioned, which one of those resonate with you the most?
So yeah, there is a lot to unpack there, but I would have to say of the three songs, Willow Tree, I think, is one of my favorites. And it just has a Grateful Dead feel to it. And so I would always connect with those types of songs, I think, a little bit better. I was listening to today, in fact, I re-listened to the one from 2019, February the 22nd, 2019. And then Heartbeat also. I love the reggae feeling on Heartbeat. And I was listening to a version from 2013. For whatever reason, I tend to connect more with recent versions because I really think the band is playing at their best right now. I mean, of course, there's a lot of older shows, and I'm sure there's a lot of debate about when the band, reached their peak and things like that. But I really like the recent shows.
Yeah, there's no question in my mind that this band is playing so well right now. The lineup they have in this band is incredible, and I just can't wait to listen to some more music. Looking at the songs here that Josh mentioned, I think the one that sticks out for me is Waiting for You. For me, it's a song that it's about love, or maybe it's about love lost, or maybe it's about love never realized. And Dave, I know you're waiting for this. I have the lyrics for Waiting for You printed out in front of me again. Nice. And I'd like to read a couple lines from the song because I like it so much. So these are some of the opening lines from the song Waiting for You. Just had a day like you wouldn't believe. It was so hard just to make myself believe that you turned down the classiest man in town. He put the move on and you said, no thanks, honey, I'll see you on down the line. Such a fine sight to see that you came running to me, taking your time. And the song goes on, it gets more interesting. But, I connect with a lot of songs about love, as we all probably do based on where we're at in life with our current relationships or past relationships. There's so many entry points to songs like that you can grab onto and connect with, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great song as well. I just out of the three, those are the two that hit me the most. But those are great lyrics. Wow, amazing.
All right, Dave, now I think it's time to hear from you. I would love to know, as you prepared for this podcast episode, what are some of your favorite Max Creek songs?
So I think favorites are so tough, as we've said, but we've already talked about one of them, right? You Write the Book, and the version that I like, which I've mentioned already. Again, I love how the song progresses. I love the empowering nature of the song, and so that's why I think I've listened to it so many times. The next one I'll say is a song called In Harmony, which I happen to love the lyrics to that as well. It reminds me of the Grateful Dead, and the version I listen to the most is a version from June 29th, 2000. That's also on YouTube. But I just love the lyrics in that. I don't have the lyrics in front of me, so I can't do a dramatic reading of them. But and the last one I like is Jones. I really think Jones is a great jam vehicle. And I have to pick the version of from the show that I saw last year. They opened set 2 with that, and what a rockin' tune that is. And there's not many lyrics to it, but again, as I mentioned earlier, I tend to connect a little bit more with the music. At least nowadays, I do. And what a great version of that. And there's been so many great versions, and I think this is a song that Scott will often play with the Mike Gordon Band as well. So those are the three that I picked out. It's so tough to pick favorites because there's so many songs of Max Creek that I love, but those are three.
All right. Well, I approached this question myself from the angle of, I'll pick a song by Scott and Mark and John. So these are my favorite Max Creek songs from that perspective. So I picked The Field, which of course is a song Scott sings, and it's an original song that was included on the band's 1980 album Rainbow, but they've been playing the song, I think, since around 1978. And The Field, I mean, this is one of those songs, if I was stuck on a desert island and I could only hear one song, I think this would be it. To me, it's got this sort of mysterious tone to it. It's full of heavy jams and it just never gets old to my ears. So I love The Field. Another one of my favorite songs is Said and Done. Of course, this is a Mark song. It's was featured on the band's Live at the Connecticut Expo Center album, the 12/31/1999 album that was released in 2000. And it was also featured on the live album 45 and Live, released last year. And they've been playing the song live, I think, since around 1998. And I mean, this is just an epic song. It's huge. It's a masterpiece in my mind as far as the lyrics and composition. So I was really impressed when I first heard that song. And I think I went into a little bit more detail about my love of this song back in episode 8 of the podcast. If you want to dig back and listen to me do a dramatic reading of lyrics of Said and Done, you could do that. I could have a whole podcast where I just read lyrics from Max Creek. Yeah, that'd be fun, right?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
And another song I love is I Will Always See Your Face. That's an original song by the band that was released on their 1986 album Windows. And John started playing that song with the band back in 1984, so it's been around for a while. And this is another song that I just always gets stuck in my head. It's a John tune. I love his voice. I love the song. I think it's just beautiful. So it's just another one of my favorite songs. So
usually the songs that get stuck in your head, those are the ones you really tend to bond with, maybe a little bit more, right?
So Dave and I each picked a song that we're going to play at the end of this episode that was referenced somewhere in this episode, either by one of us or by one of the audio clips that we played today. So Dave, why don't you tell our listeners what song you picked?
So my pick is going to be the Jones from June 15th, 2019, that show at Lincoln Hill Farms.
Yes, I think it's a great song, and it represents one of your favorite songs.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to pick The Seven, which was a song mentioned by Stacey, and it's also one of my favorites, like I just mentioned a few minutes ago. And I'll be playing the December 6th, 1997 performance at Globe Theater in Norwalk, Connecticut. So hang on for just a little bit, and we'll play both of those songs. But before we jump into those, I want to thank Dave Burland for once again joining me on the podcast. Dave, you are amazing.
Well, thanks so much, Korre. I really appreciate it. And I just love your podcast. And I'm so happy that there's a podcast out there celebrating the music of Max Creek. I think it's so important. I think you do an awesome job. So thanks again for inviting me on. I appreciate it.
And if listeners want to connect with you, Dave, perhaps the easiest thing they can do is find you on Twitter with the handle @CactusArea. But if you want to see an entirely different side of Dave, I suggest checking out his YouTube channel, Cinema Dave Media, where he explores his love of movies. And you can also check out Dave's music by searching for Cactus Area on Bandcamp. Dave, did I get all that right?
Absolutely.
All right. Okay, Dave. Well, this has been a ton of fun. We're going to play these songs here in just a second, but thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. I really appreciate it.
Thanks again, Korre. It was a pleasure talking with you.
Now, let's play that music we promised. This is Max Creek performing The Jones live at Lincoln Hill Farms in Canandaigua, New York, back on June 15th, 2019.
got you and your sister. Jones, 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 Jones for you. Jones, Jones, Jones for you. Jones, Jones, Jones for you. Jones, 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 Jones for you.
Now, this is Max Creek performing The Seven live at the Globe Theater in Norwalk, Connecticut, back on December 6th, 1997.
She flew. Crystals of the wind fall out like a midnight dew. Release a tear from a steel. Why? She sings for me, rushing my soul when I'm careless going. Whoa, no. Love is what you see. Bring me the key to say what I'm going. Whoa, no. really don't know what they can do. Throw them out you will. The thoughts are only parts of you. She's what you see, and love can be my holy hand. Thoughts caught up in time, no reason to ask why. She sings for me, rushing my soul and I don't care where it's going. Whoa, no. Love is what she sees. Bring me the key to say what I'm knowing. Whoa, no. Whoa, no.
And that concludes episode 20 of Hooked on Creek. Huge thanks again to Dave Burland for joining me on the podcast, and to Ryan, Matt, Stacey, Tim, John, and Josh for participating. It really means a lot to me. If you are curious, during the introduction to this episode, I played If You Ask Me, performed live by Max Creek at the Mount Snow Brewers Festival in West Dover, Vermont, back on August 31st, 2002. And I would love to know what you thought of this episode, so please send your feedback to me by clicking the contact link on the Hooked on Creek website hookedoncreek.com, or you can simply send an email to me at hookedoncreek@gmail.com. You can also connect with me and other fans of the podcast on the Hooked on Creek Facebook group, or on Twitter or on Instagram. Just search for Hooked on Creek to get connected. Thanks for tuning in.